Hello, and this is Care Crochet's tutorial for making Fred the Frog. And so before we start, I'd like to quickly review the materials that are included in your kit. So feel free to open your kit and kind of look through materials with me as I go through what each one of them are and their uses. So first, this is going to be called a crochet hook. And it's basically what we're going to be using to make Fred the Frog and kind of make these stitches you see here. So this will be really important in today's tutorial. Next, we have our yarn. And you might notice this little circular looking thing with this big loop. So this is a pre-crocheted magic ring, and this is going to help you start Fred the Frog's body and this nice little spiral we have going here. And you can also see it on the top right there, this little spiral. So it's a little bit difficult to start this as first as a beginner, so this pre-made magic ring is going to be really helpful as we continue to crochet Fred the Frog. Next, we have Fred the Frog's two eyes that also come pre-crocheted for you, so you can just sew them on easily, and this is what they look like sewed on. And you have a small tiny strand of black string, and this will be for when we sew on his mouth. Then we have his eyes and the two little plastic backings. We have a sewing needle that we'll be using for Fred the Frog's mouth and to sew on his eyes to his body. And we also have two stitch markers. You really only need one for today, but what stitch markers are is they basically help us know what the last stitch is and when we need to stop and move on to a new sequence of stitches. And this might sound confusing right now, so we'll be using these throughout the tutorial and you'll be able to get a really good hang of them. So just choose one for now. I'll choose red for this tutorial. And then lastly, I would like you to have some sort of scissor or cutting device on hand just so if we need to cut any loose yarn or if there might be any yarn poking out, this is going to be really helpful for us. Okay, so the first step to crocheting Fred the Frog is going to be to make his body right here. And so the materials I'd like you to take out and place in front of you are your crochet hook and your ball of yarn. And this is really all you'll need to crochet his body, and the other materials we'll be using later. Also, I would like you to have your stitch marker just on hand so we can use it, and then obviously your pair of scissors as well. Something that you don't need, but what I'll be using throughout this video just to kind of as a guiding marker is going to be my sewing needle. Although this isn't its primary use, we are going to be using the needle to sew on his mouth and sew on his eyes, but I'll be using it to also pinpoint some stitches. So if you notice me using that, it's just for guidance and don't feel like you need to follow along, but if you do think it helps, then feel free to. Okay, so the first step is I want you to take your crochet hook and place it in your dominant hand. So for this one, since I'm right-handed, my dominant hand will be my right, so I'll be referring to my gripping on my crochet hook with my right hand, and then my left hand will always be with my working yarn, which is the tail of the yarn attached to my overall ball of yarn. So how do you hold a crochet hook? So your crochet hook should always be facing you. And I kind of get like a grip on it with my thumb in front of me like so, and then my forefingers just in the back. And then my thumb should be in the little indent right here where it says 3.5 millimeters to kind of just give me a better grip on it. Okay. And it might seem a little confusing. You might be wondering, like, I don't really know how to hold a crochet hook just yet, but it's totally okay because we'll be going through it together and we'll be learning how to hold a crochet hook even better throughout this tutorial. So the first thing I'm going to want you to do is I want you to slip your crochet hook, it's still facing you, through the big loop you have on your magic ring that's pre-made for you, like that. And then you might notice like this is a pretty big loop for a pretty narrow crochet hook. So I want you to hold your magic ring with your right hand and pull on this this end of yarn connected to your bigger overall ball of yarn and just pull it. And this is going to tighten your loop. So then you get this nice and tight loop on your crochet hook. You also might notice this little loose piece of yarn just kind of sticking out. This is called a tail end, and it might get in the way of your work. So what I like to do is I kind of just like to push it to the side and disregard it. And it's just there because obviously you have two ends when you're working with yarn. So it's just a little like remnant that was left for making the magic ring, and it will be hidden later, so it won't be poking out. But just for now, make sure it doesn't get in the way of your work and just kind of push it behind. Okay, so now that I have my crochet hook facing me and I have it slipped onto the loop, I'm going to take my crochet marker or my stitch marker and I'm going to put it on the stitch, my first stitch, which is right behind my crochet hook, right there. And this is going to help us know when our round is done and our last stitch of the round, and it's going to be really helpful. So I'm just going to clip that on. Just like that. Just going to push that back out of the way like so. And now let's go on to how to grip your crochet hook and your yarn. So my yarn, I like to take my left hand and then just kind of create tension with my index finger. So my index finger is up here. And it's creating that tension, making my working yarn really tight. So it's kind of like not elastic or loose. And this is just going to help me keep my loop tight onto my crochet hook, and it's going to make sure that my work doesn't fall apart. So like that. And then obviously with the rest, I'm going to be holding it just in my 4 remaining fingers. So that goes up there. And then for my work, I like to hold it with my left hand, with my thumb and middle finger. Holding your work down means that when you're working and inserting into stitches, your work isn't going to go like this, right? It's not going to go everywhere. So it's important to hold your work down, which in this case is your magic ring, like that, creating that tension with your index finger up there, and then your 4 fingers are just grasping on to your working yarn, just like so. It's a little bit difficult to get at first, for sure, and it is definitely going to take some time for you to get comfortable with this, but just remember to take it slow and keep that tension. That's the most important part. And then obviously you want your crochet hook facing you. And make sure just keep this tight, keep a lot of tension on it. And now what we're going to do is we're going to be going into our first stitch. And I'll be using my sewing needle to help mark that. So our first stitch should be right, let me try and get under it here. So it kind of has this little, I'll use a different needle. It kind of has a little V shape. So a stitch is always going to have this kind of V shape, these 2 threads kind of adjoining each other. So this is what a stitch is going to look like. And where I'm inserting my sewing needle is where my crochet hook is going to go. So just kind of paving the way for that. Holding my yarn tight. And now I'm going to go through where my sewing needle just went into, and that's going to be the first stitch. So let's just kind of put it through there, put it under both. It might be a little bit difficult to get at first, but it will look like that. I'll do that one more time. So I have my work tight like that. And then I'm just going to insert my hook into that first stitch. I like to use my index finger and kind of loosen up my grip just to help guide my crochet hook through, because you don't want to catch any excess strands of yarn. So it should look like that. And then once my crochet hook is through, I'm going to do something called yarning over. And yarning over is really important because it allows us to continue on with our work. So yarning over is basically me taking my yarn through the back of my crochet hook and then back up towards me. And then it's like a loop. So I'm going to go up, down, back up. And while you're doing this, make sure something is holding your work. So I'll be holding it with my right hand, because if you don't hold your work, then obviously your yarn over is just going to go crazy. So hold your work. Hold your loop down. My crochet hook's facing me. I'm yarning over, up, down, back up, and then you have this kind of fake little loop on your crochet hook. And with this loop, my crochet hook that was once facing me is going to face down, and I'm going to hook onto that loop, keeping the tension really tight with my left finger, index finger up there, and I'm going to pull through that stitch and then back up. So that might be really difficult because obviously these stitches are pretty tight and hard to get through. So let's do that whole process one more time. I inserted my hook into this first stitch right here. I created that tension with my left index finger. And then I'm going to yarn over, back up, yarn over, back up, keeping that tension right there. I'm going to hook onto that yarn over I just did and pull through that first stitch that I inserted into. And then you'll notice that you have 2 loops left on your crochet hook. My crochet hook is back facing me. I'm going to create that tension again. I'm going to yarn over, so over and then back up and then create that tension again. Hold on to your work always, always. And then pull through those 2 loops that are left. Like that. So what we just did there is called a single crochet. And what we basically did is we inserted our crochet hook into the first loop, into the first stitch. We then yarned over and then pulled through that stitch, and then we were left with 2, and then we yarned over and pulled through the last 2. So I'm going to be doing this many more times, so do not feel overwhelmed, and we're going to go through this really slowly. So now that we did our first single crochet, we're actually going to be doing another single crochet into the same stitch, because what we're doing right now is we're doing something called an increase, and this is going to double our stitch count just so we can get a much bigger body like Fred the Frog has. So I'll use my sewing needle and kind of show you where the same stitch is. So it's going to be the little hole, not the new one, but the one closest to your crochet hook. It's going to be this one right here. It's the same exact stitch that your crochet hook just went into. Right there. Right there. So now that I kind of have that guiding, I'm going to remember my grip on it, keeping that tension tight right there. I'm going to insert my hook. All right, that's through. Kind of keep that closer to the end. My crochet hook facing me. Go through the back, up, and over. Creating that yarn over. My crochet hook is facing down. I'm going to hook onto that yarn over I just did and pull through that stitch. So now I have 2. Yarn over, back up. My crochet hook goes down. I'm hooking on to only the yarn over and pulling through the 2 loops. So I just did my first increase, and we have 5 more to get to the end of our first round. And also you might notice that the hole in the center is getting a little bit looser from time to time. So if this happens, just pull on your little short tail end, and this should tighten it. Yep, like that. So we'll be doing this 5 more times. Enter your crochet hook into the next stitch right there. Entering my crochet hook. Now we have my crochet hook through that stitch. Holding my work. I'm going to yarn over, back up. My crochet hook faces down. Hooks onto that yarn over I just did. Pulls through that first loop, and then I come back up, and now I have 2 loops on here. Now I'm going to yarn over, come back up, keeping that tension, and then hooking onto the yarn over and pulling through both loops and then coming back up. Okay, now we have to finish our increase, so we're going to go in the same stitch, this one right here, same exact one. Let's go through it now. Okay, now we have it inserted. Now let's yarn over, my index finger keeping it really tight, pull through that stitch I just went into. Now I have 2, yarn over, and pull through both loops. So I just did my second increase. Now I'll be doing my third. There's the brand new next stitch right there. Insert my crochet hook, yarn over, hook onto that yarn over, go up through that stitch, yarn over, back up, holding that tension tight, and pulling through both like that. Okay, so now see that little same stitch opening right there again. Insert my crochet hook there. Yarn over, hook onto that yarn over, go through that stitch. Now I come up and I have 2 loops left. Yarn over, keeping that tension real tight, and pull through both loops. So now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 stitches total, and we started off with 6, so you can tell that our overall stitch count is growing, and we have to do this 3 more times. So this is our next stitch that we're working into right there. Gonna insert my crochet hook. My crochet hook is still facing me. I'm gonna yarn over and then come back up, keeping that tension tight. My crochet hook's gonna face down. I'm gonna scoop up onto that yarn and come up through that stitch. Now I have 2 left. Yarn, sorry, losing grip of my yarn. Yarn over, back up. Now I have those 2 loops, and I'm going to pull through both. Now my increase, I'm going to go into that same stitch, yarn over, keeping that tension real tight, coming up, pulling through that stitch. Now I have 2 loops, yarn over, pull up, and then pull that yarn over through these 2 loops. Okay, now I have 2 more. Insert into the next stitch, yarn over, pull up, hook onto that yarn over, pull through that stitch you just went into. Now I have 2 loops, yarn over, holding it tight with the index finger, and pull through both loops like that. Okay, and then now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now, so I'm going to finish that increase. I'm going to go into that same stitch. And let's pull up. Now I got those 2. Yarn over. And then there's my second to last increase. And another thing, if you do feel your loop getting loose at any time, just feel free to pull on your working yarn. That's going to make sure that your loop stays nice and secure on your crochet hook. Now that we've reached the last stitch, feel free to take off your stitch marker. And where your stitch marker was, which was right here for us, you're going to insert that crochet hook again, yarn over. Don't let your tail yarn get in the way, kind of push it away. Let's pull through that stitch we just did. Now we got 2 loops, yarn over, pull up, keeping that tension real tight, pull over those 2 loops. Let's insert into that same stitch, yarn over, pull through, keeping that tension real tight, pull up through that stitch. Now we have 2 loops on here, yarn over, pull through both loops. Okay. And you see my hole in the middle has kind of gotten a little looser, so I'm just going to pull on my tail end back here. That should make it nice and flush. So we just did our first round of 6 increases, and I'm going to put my stitch marker on that stitch I just finished, like that. And now let's do a stitch count to just make sure we do have 12, because we started off with 6, but then we did increases, which means our stitch count should have doubled. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 right there. So now with our first round done, we'll be moving on to our second round, and the sequence for that will be 1 single crochet, then 1 increase. And just a reminder, an increase is simply 2 single crochets inside of the same stitch. So essentially, by doing those 6 increases in the first round, we just mastered the single crochet and the increase in one. So we'll be able to go through these next rounds pretty easily. So, just like before, this one's our first stitch right here. Kind of see if I can show that. I'm going to insert my hook through that first stitch, and this is going to be a single crochet. So I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to yarn over, pull up, hook onto that yarn over, and pull through that stitch I just went into. Then I have these 2 loops, yarn over, pull up, and then hook onto that yarn over and pull through the 2 loops on my crochet hook, just like that. So that was a single crochet. Now I have to go into the next loop and do an increase like we just did. So let's insert my hook there, insert it, yarn over, come back up, making that tension. My hook goes down, I'm pulling up and through that stitch I just made. Then I'm going to yarn over again, creating that tension with my index finger, and then pull through both loops. So now, since this is an increase, I'm going into the same stitch right there, insert my crochet hook, I'm going to yarn over, my crochet hook goes down. This is always the most difficult part, but just try and, just hook up really gently and slowly to get that through that stitch, and then yarn over again and pull through both loops. So that was an increase. We just finished our first single crochet and increase, so I'll do that one more time. So there's our next stitch right there. Gonna insert my hook, yarn over, come back up like that. Nice and slow, just kind of come up again. And I've got those 2 loops, yarn over, and then pull through both loops. So that was my single crochet. Now into the next, because now it's an increase. I'm gonna insert my hook, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, and pull through both loops. So those were 2 single crochet and increase sequences, and just for the sake of time I will be fast forwarding to the end of this round where my stitch marker is, so feel free to rewind and go over any parts where you might have been confused or where you might have gotten a little lost. It's just the same single crochet and increase all the way till the end, and this stitch where your stitch marker is in should be an increase. So that's how you know that your round is over, and I will see you once I have finished my stitching. So I just finished doing all of my single crochet increase sequences all the way around, and then I put my stitch marker on the last increase that I did. So it should have been single crochet increase until you reached this stitch marker, and then you did an increase. If you didn't end on an increase, that means you might have missed one of these stitches, or you might have put your crochet hook in the next stitch instead of increasing, and that could have offset your stitch count a bit. But your stitch count right now should be 18. If it's not 18, you should go back a few stitches, try and find out where you made your mistake, and just stay calm and keep going. Definitely when I first started, it was really difficult for me to get in the same stitch and make the increases, so I didn't always get the exact stitch counts, but it is really important to this pattern to make sure that we're not getting an uneven body for our frog. So let's count together. We should have 18 now that we did our single crochet increase sequences. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, which is where my stitch marker is. So that is good. If you had 18 first try, congratulations. But if you didn't, which it will be very difficult, just stay calm. It is totally okay, especially if you're a beginner. Crocheting is not something that comes easy, and is definitely not something that comes first try. It took me a lot of tries to get to this level of crochet, so don't be too hard on yourself. Don't beat yourself up, and just keep going and keep persevering. But now that we're done with round 2, we're going to be moving on to round 3. And round 3 is essentially the same thing. We're not introducing any new stitches. The new sequence is going to be 2 single crochets and then an increase. So in round 2, we were doing just 1 single crochet and then an increase. But now we'll be doing, I'll kind of mark it out here, 1 single crochet here, 2 single crochet here, and then an increase, which is just 2 single crochets in the same stitch right there. All right, so let's go into our first stitch. All right, gonna yarn over, keeping that tension still, pulling up and through just like that, yarn over, pull up, got that yarn over, and let's pull through those 2 loops. That was our first single crochet. Into the next stitch, like that, yarn, oh, see, yarn over, pull up and through, yarn over again, hook onto that yarn over, pull through those 2 loops. That was our second single crochet, so now we're going to be going on to our increase, which is in the next new stitch. So insert my hook there, single crochet, come up, hook on to that yarn over. Now I got those 2. And pull through. Now, since this is an increase, try and find the same little stitch that you just went into. It should be right there. Insert your crochet hook. Yarn over. Pull through that stitch you just went into, yarn over, got those two loops, yarn over and pull through both. So that was our increase, and now we'll be going into the same sequence again. So single crochet, increase. So 2 single crochets and then an increase. So let's go into that next stitch right there, yarn over, pull through the stitch, come up, got those 2 loops, yarn over, pull through both loops. That was our first single crochet. Into the next stitch, that, yarn over, keeping that tension tight, pull up through that stitch, yarn over, keeping it up there, and then pull through both loops. That was our second single crochet, so now let's go on to our increase. Into the next stitch, yarn over, pull up, Now we got those 2 loops again. Yarn over, pull through both. That was our first single crochet in our increase. Find that same stitch again. Insert your hook, yarn over, pull up, through the same stitch you just went into, yarn over, come back up, and then pull through those 2 just like that. So again, just for the sake of time, I'll be fast forwarding to when I get to my stitch marker. So just keep doing the same sequence of 2 single crochets and then an increase. And then once you get to this stitch marker, you should end on an increase. And if you didn't, just make sure to pull your yarn back, identify your mistake, and go on from there. So I just finished round 3, which was 2 single crochets and then an increase. And I ended on an increase and put my stitch marker there. And now we should have a final stitch count of 24. So let's count that out together. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, and then where my stitch marker is 24. So again, if you didn't meet this stitch count number, just make sure to pull back your work and just make sure you didn't miss any increases or stitches. And then with that, we will be moving on to round 4, which is really simple. We're just going to be doing single crochets all around, so no more sequences like increases or single crochet increase. We're just going to be doing single crochets all around. So in this case, it'd be 24 single crochets all the way around until we get to our stitch marker again. So single crochet, we'll do a couple together. There's my next stitch right there. Kind of see right there. Gonna insert my hook into that stitch, yarn over, hook on, come back up, yarn over, and then pull through those 2. Into the next stitch, yarn over, pull up, go up through that stitch I just went into, got to those 2 loops again, yarn over, pull back up, and pull through those 2 loops. All right, next stitch, yarn over, pull up, scoop under that stitch. Now we got those 2 loops, yarn over, pull through those 2 loops. Next stitch, insert, yarn over, keeping that tension, pull through. Now I've got those 2 loops, yarn over, and pull through the 2 loops that are left. So I just did, I think, around 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 single crochets. So I just want you to keep going all the way around until you reach the stitch marker. Do your last single crochet into the stitch that the stitch marker is currently in. That's when you know when you're done, and I'll be fast forwarding and I'll be seeing you there. Also, if you feel like you're having trouble at this point in the video and you feel like I don't know how to properly do an increase or single crochet, I will also be posting shorter videos going a lot more in depth on those specific stitches on my channel, Care Crochet. So feel free to check those out if you feel like you're just lost at this point in the video and you don't really know how to do a single crochet or an increase, or it's just been pretty difficult and your work isn't looking like this. Also, another thing, your work might not be looking as clean as mine, since obviously if you are a beginner, this comes with just years of practice, and just don't feel frustrated if it doesn't look exactly like this. But if it is keeping that spiral and looks like a circle at this point, that means you are doing well and we are getting the body for Fred the Frog done. So do not worry and just make sure that you are getting and meeting your stitch counts and that you are following the sequences, and then you should be good to go. So I will fast forward and I will see you when I am finished with round 4, which is single crochets all the way around 24 times. Okay, so I just finished round 4, which was just me single crocheting all the way around. And I am going to do a stitch count for this. And our stitch count is just going to stay the same at 24. So this is just to make sure that maybe you didn't made an extra increase somewhere or might have accidentally increased your stitch count. So just count along with me and see if we still have 24 like we should. So kind of flatten that out a little bit. And let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, and then 21, 22, 23, and where my stitch marker is 24. So mine has stayed the same, so I didn't make any additional increases or any wrong stitches. But if yours has increased, let's say to 25 or maybe even 26, just make sure to pull back your work and kind of undo any increases you might have made. And it's really common to accidentally do increases because it's really easy to miss the stitch or go into the wrong stitch. So don't feel too bad about it. I made a lot of those mistakes when I was beginning as well, and we will just keep going. So actually, for rounds 4, 5, 6, and 7, we will be doing just purely single crochets all the way around. So we just finished up round 4, which means we have 3 more rounds of just single crochet. So exactly like we just did. Single crochets just all the way around until we get to that stitch marker and put our last single crochet in that stitch. So I'll just be going over the single crochet a couple more times in case you might need a little refresher or just want to follow along and kind of see where the stitches are. But this is our second round doing just purely single crochets, and this is now round 5, and we will be doing this 3 more times. So rounds 4 through 7 will just be single crochets all the way around. So our next stitch will be this one right here. Gonna insert my crochet hook, yarn over, pull up and through, yarn over, pull through both loops on my crochet hook. There's my first single crochet. Let's go into the next stitch, yarn over, pull through that stitch, pull up. Now I got those 2 loops, yarn over, and pull through those 2 loops. I'll be doing this about 2 more times. Next stitch, yarn over. Oh, sorry, did that too many times. Creating that tension still. Pull up that stitch I just went into. Now I got those 2. Yarn over, pull up, pull through 2. That's my 3rd single crochet. Let's do 1 more. Into the next stitch. Yarn over, pull up, and then I'm going to go pull through that stitch. Then we got those 2. Yarn over, pull up, and pull through just like that. So now you're going to be doing this 20 more times, I think, just until you reach that stitch marker and put your last single crochet in the stitch where the stitch marker is currently placed. And I'll be fast forwarding and seeing you at the end of round 7. So do this. Do this 2 more times after this round. So just for the sake of time, I am going to go to round 7. But I always also, just pro tip, I like to keep a little tally on the side, maybe like on my notepad. I just like to tally how many rounds I've done. This just helps me keep track. So this is round 2. So in my tally, I would have already marked 1 so that I know I've already completed 1 full round of just purely single crochets. This is my second one, so after I finish this one and reach this stitch marker, I'll be tallying 2, and then I'll start a new one, tallying 3, start a new one, tallying 4, and then once you get to the number 4, you know you're at round 7 and you're done with those single crochets. So just finish up this round and then do single crochets all the way around 2 more times, and then I will fast forward and see you there. So I just finished doing my 4 rounds of single crochets, and I'm now finished with round 7. And if you got here, congratulations. And now, before we even start crocheting anything more, I want you to kind of pull up on your loop and make your loop a little bit bigger, because we're actually going to be sewing on Fred's mouth. And to do that, I want you to flip out your work, because this is going to be the cleaner side, so it's going to look a little bit better when we want to assemble Fred and his decorations. And not this side, but for me, I'm going to go here. So the opposite of where my big loop is and my stitch marker is. This is where I'm going to put Fred's mouth. And so what you're going to want to do is grab your black thread, and then thread it through your sewing needle like that. It's kind of a little bit difficult to get through. Like mine just fell apart right there, but that's okay. And just kind of wrap it up, push it through. And then if it helps you, you can tie it at the end, but just personal preference for me, I don't really like to tie it at the end. But you're going to go 2 rows up from the bottom, so 1, 2, and I'm going to just put it, it doesn't really matter where you put it, but I'm just going to make the hole because you're going to be going from the inside anyway, so I'm going to go from the inside. And the reason I put it here is because it's aligned with my magic ring. So I just went up from the inside and out, so I'm going to pull that through and just keep pulling because there's quite a bit of black thread, so I'm just going to pull through like that and leave enough so I can tie it. And then it's going to be 2 spaces over, so 1, 2. I'm just going to place it right there, and I'm going to go back in, and just like that, we have Fred the Frog's little mouth. Very straightforward, very easy. I'll do that one more time, just so you don't miss anything. Threading it through my needle. Threading it, oh, sorry, it's a little difficult to get through. Threading it through my needle. Okay, kind of straightening that out. All right, and then I'm going to go from the inside, 2 rows from the bottom, like that. I'm going to pull up and through. Okay, making sure that I have enough to tie it with. And then I'm just going to go 2 spaces over, right about there. Back in, pull tight. That was little mouth. I'm going to take the yarn off, and then I have my yarn back here inside, and I'm not sure if you can really see it, but basically all you're going to do is just double knot this, just so the mouth stays secure. So I'm just going to double knot it right there. Okay. Oh. And if you double knot it too hard, like I just did, it might disappear a little bit, so that's okay. I'm just going to go under it with my sewing needle and just pull it out like that. Make it long again. Oh, also, it's just my personal preference to make it 2 stitches long, but obviously if you want a longer mouth, you can do more stitches or shorter. I'm not sure if you can go shorter than 2, but you can do less stitches, so it's totally up to personal preference, but I just prefer to have it kind of 2 stitches long. And then I'm just going to kind of go under that and make sure that it's visible to the eye. So there it is. And then I'm just going to keep that so I can double knot it here. Okay. And then once I have it tight enough, I'm just going to do one more because my yarn is being a little bit, or my thread is being a little bit uncooperative right now, so it's kind of going everywhere. So I'm just going to make sure that it's tight. And then once it's tight and it won't come out, you have all this kind of excess. You can just leave it in here because we're going to be stuffing anyways, but I just like to cut it off with my scissors and tuck that in right there. And then you have Fred's tiny little mouth. I'm just going to make mine just a little bit more noticeable like that. And you have just sewn on Fred's mouth. And now we can continue on with the rest of our pattern. So since we turned over our work, we're now going to be going this way around. And the next sequence will be 2 single crochets, and then a decrease. So decrease, that's some new terminology in this video, and do not worry because we're going to be going over that right now. So single crochet, just in this next stitch right here, just like we've always been doing, yarn over, pull through, come up, got those 2 loops, yarn over, pull through the 2 loops. That's my single crochet, and then remember it's 2 single crochets and then a decrease. So let's just do another single crochet into the next, single crochet, come back up, keeping that tension, pull through that stitch I just went into, got those 2 loops, single crochet, yarn over, and then pull through those 2 loops. So those were 2 single crochets right there. And now I'm going to be doing a decrease. So what a decrease basically is it's going to, well, decrease our stitch count. So if we are at 24 now, it's going to go down to 18 and then down to 12. And then we're going to go down to 6 and we're going to be finally able to close off our body. So we just did 2 single crochets. Now I'm going to be doing a decrease. So decrease. Enter your hook into the next stitch. Yarn over. Now you have the 2 loops, but instead of pulling through the 2 loops like you'd normally do with a single crochet, go into the next stitch, yarn over again, pull up and through, and now you have 3 loops, and then you're going to want to yarn over and pull through all 3. So this might be a little bit difficult to do, like all 3 at the same time, so I would just kind of pull through one, pull through the next one, and then pull through that last one. And then we just did our first decrease. So I will be going through this decrease many more times just because I know that was a little bit difficult. So let's do our 2 single crochets into the next stitch. And also this kind of bigger hole right there, that is the same stitch. So do not get that confused for your next stitch. Your next stitch is going to be completely new and not connected to the previous one. So insert into the next stitch, yarn over, pull up and through, yarn over, and pull through those 2 loops. Next stitch, yarn over, got those 2 loops, yarn over, pull through those 2 loops. Those are our 2 single crochets. Now we're going to be going on to our decrease. So my decrease, going through my next stitch, yarning over, pulling up, then my next stitch again, yarning over, pulling up, have those 3 loops, yarning over, and pulling through all of them. So I just did that sequence twice, and again, just for the sake of time, I'm going to be fast forwarding to the end of this round, so just keep in mind the pattern is 2 single crochets and then a decrease, and you can rewind and rewatch any part of this video to make sure you're clear on which each stitch is, and I'll see you at the end of this round. So I just finished up round 8, which was a single crochet or 2 single crochets and then a decrease, and now we're moving on to round 9. But before we do that, let's do a quick stitch count. So now we should be at 18 stitches all around. So kind of push these back so you can see, and we'll count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. So we have our 18 stitches all around, and now we will be going on to round 9, which is our single crochet and then decrease. So instead of doing 2 single crochets and then decrease, we'll now be doing 1 single crochet and then a decrease. So like always, let's go into the next stitch, yarn over, pull up, yarn over, pull through the 2 loops. That's our single crochet. And then we'll do a decrease now. So into the next stitch, yarn over, pull up, into the next stitch, yarn over, pull up, got those 3 loops, yarn over, pull through all 3. And again, if it's easier, you can go through 2 and then 1, or you can go through 1 at a time, but I just prefer to go all 3 because that's just a little faster for me. All right, next stitch, we're going to do a single crochet, yarn over, got those 2 loops, yarn over, pull through 2. Now we got our decrease, yarn over, next one, yarn over, got the 3 loops, yarn over, pull through all 3. All right. Next stitch, insert, yarn over, pull through, got the 2 loops. That's our single crochet, into the next, yarn over, into the next, yarn over, and that's gonna be 3, yarn over, pull through all 3. That's our decrease. Next, yarn over, I'm gonna do a single crochet, like that. Then our decrease, insert, yarn over, got those 3 loops, yarn over, pull through all 3. All right, single crochet, and then insert, yarn over, pull through, got those 3 loops again, yarn over, pull through all 3. Okay, single crochet in the next one. Now I'm going to take off my stitch marker so I can finish off our decrease, insert, yarn over, insert into the last one, yarn over, pull up, and then you have the 3 loops, yarn over, and pull through all 3 of them. And that is the end of round 9, 1 single crochet and decrease. Alright, so that is the end of round 9, and we will now be doing a stitch count. We should have 12 stitches now. Alright, so let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and then the one that my stitch marker's on makes 12. Okay, so now that we have 12 stitches, our hole is getting pretty small and we are very close to the end. We're just 1 round away from finishing. So congratulations on being so close to finishing your first ever crochet project, or maybe not your first, Fred the Frog. Okay, so now take out your stuffing or your cotton and just take little pieces of it and use your thumb to just kind of stuff it in. We want to do as much as we can now because once our hole gets pretty small, it's going to be hard to stuff it. So kind of stuff it to the brim. Yes, and then if you need, obviously you can stuff a little bit later once we're finished. Yeah, I just like to press it in a little bit. Okay, so now that's pretty stuffed. Let's get our hook back on. And now for round 10, our final round, we're just going to be doing decreases all around. So this is going to get a little bit difficult because decreases get a little bit confusing at times and it might be difficult to get into the stitches, but we'll do it slow and together. So into the first stitch, not into this one. Mine has a bit of a big hole, so it looks a little bit like noticeable, this one right here. But you're not going to be going into that one. You're going to be going to the next one, so try not to get confused there. Going to the next stitch. Yarn over, pull through, going to the next stitch again, yarn over, pull through, got those 3 stitches, yarn over, pull through all 3. All right. Okay, and this is where it gets a little hard because the stitch is a little bit further. Insert, yarn over, pull up, insert, yarn over, pull up, got those 3. Yarn over, pull through all 3. All right. Next stitch, yarn over, pull up. Next stitch, yarn over, pull up. Yarn over, pull through all 3. Next stitch, yarn over, pull up. Next stitch, yarn over, pull up. Got those 3, and then yarn over, pull through all 3, and then next stitch, yarn over, next stitch, yarn over, and we got those 3, yarn over, pull through 3, take out your stitch marker, next stitch, yarn over, next stitch, oh, gone to the other one. Next stitch, yarn over, got those 3 loops, yarn over, pull through all 3. And then our hole has gotten pretty small now. You don't need to use your stitch marker anymore just because we're so close to the end. So Mine is pretty stuffed, but I like to have mine really, really stuffed. So I'm just going to take a little bit, use my pinky and kind of stuff a little bit more in. Okay, so you can also do that if you want to, but right now we are looking pretty good. So in order to close off your work and kind of make this hole a little bit smaller, I'm just going to go into the next stitch, and I'm going to do something called a slip stitch. So a slip stitch, I'm just going to insert my hook into the next stitch, yarn over, pull through, but instead of yarning over and pulling through these two again, I'm just going to pull this loop through my second loop. So it's like that, and then I'm left with one loop, and then I'm going to cut a pretty long tail like that, pull out. So you can leave it like this, but I don't really like to have this big hole at the bottom. So I like to take this, insert it into my needle, and then you can do this any way you want, but I'm just going to go from this side to the other side under the stitch, pull that tight, and then from this side to the other side under the stitch, pull that tight. And then you see how that kind of closes it up a lot nicer. And then from here, I'm just gonna cut this, leave like this tiny little bit, and then I'm just gonna kind of push that in with my crochet, with my needle. There you go. And then it's kind of a lot more unnoticeable. And then now we have our beautiful little body with our mouth in the front. So this should be the top and this should be the bottom where we finished. So there it is. Congratulations on finishing your first, or not, I'm sorry, I keep saying first, but congratulations on finishing the body for Fred the Frog. Yay. But we are not done yet because we still need his little eyes to add his final touches of personality. All right, so grab your pre-crocheted eyes. I'm just going to put everything aside now. All you need now is your sewing needle, your eyes. Don't need your crochet hook or your stitch marker anymore. Just get your pre-crocheted eyes and then these little black eyes. Also, with any leftover items you may have, like leftover yarn or leftover cotton, you can feel free to throw them away or make anything you would like for them, but there's really no use for any more yarn in this video to make Fred the Frog. So those are, you can discard them now. Okay, so this is going to get a little bit tricky, but we will go through it slowly, and I'll make sure that you know how to properly sew on these eyes. So first things first, we want to put on his actual pupils or his eyes. So take one of these and take one of your pre-crocheted eyes and go one row above, so right here, and just insert your eyes really anywhere around. Just going to put them right here. And then once you have them on, grab your backing, go through the back, and just kind of push them on like this. Might be a little tricky at first, but just really push down hard. And you've got one eye in. All right, and then just do the same thing for the other one. Your eyes might be a little bit misshapen. Just kind of like shape them out a little bit, and they should be good. All right, I'm just going to go one row above. Insert that in, just like that. And then grab my backing, go through the back, and push that in real tight just so it stays there. Okay, now we have our two little eyes that are ready to be sewn on. So I'll start with the left side. It really doesn't matter. I'll be going over it twice though, how to sew them on. So thread your tail end onto here like so, onto your sewing needle. And then this is in the back. So wait, I don't remember if I said left or right. I'll just be starting with the right side. Okay, so you see this little magic ring right here? You're just going to go right next to it and kind of place it. If you have some sort of pin, or even you can use your crochet hook, I guess. But if it's helpful, you can push it through and kind of, I'm not sure if it'll work for me. Yeah, push it through and kind of make it so it stays, if that helps you. I've never really done this before, but if you feel like it's going to be difficult for you to just stay kind of grounded, with your eye grounded. You can definitely poke it down with something. But for me, I'll just be kind of going with my knowledge. So I'm going to kind of place it there and kind of get a vision for what I want. Just kind of look at it real quick. Make sure that it's even. Make sure that it's where you want it. And then, yeah, so I'm just going to have that right here. And it's right next to the magic ring in the center. And then this is the back. So I'll be showing you the back because we're going to be starting there. Making sure your eyes are looking forward and aligned. So whatever side, so it might be different for whichever eye you might have, but I'm just going to go on to whichever side I can keep crocheting on. So you see how this side kind of has like remnants of it already being crocheted, and then you would have kept working this way. So because of that, I'm going to start sewing this way. So I'm just going to grab hold of one of my stitches, and I'm really just going to go under anywhere that I can grasp onto. There's not really a specific place. I'm just going to kind of dig under and kind of find a good spot right there. And I'm just going to pull through. I feel like sewing is something that's very subjective. It's pretty difficult to get, but there's really no way you should do it specifically. I think as long as your decoration gets properly fastened. So let's go into the next stitch. It doesn't have to be directly the next one, but I'm going to go into the next one right here. Just kind of get under it. And then I'm just going to go into the body. Just kind of grab up on a stitch right here. Yep, and then I'm just going to pull through. Simply just like that. And make sure to constantly kind of make sure that your eye is staying in place. All right, then I'm going to kind of go this way now. Get under that stitch. If I can grab it. All right. And then I'm going to go through this stitch right here. Okay, and then I'm going to pull through. See how it kind of went around, so I'm just going to kind of pull it up through there. Yeah, just be careful when you're sewing. Okay, and there. And make sure to pull it tight always so it just stays onto your body. Okay, now I'm going to go here, grab onto this, and then just pull up like that. Okay, I'm going to go to the front now, get this front piece right here, and then I'm just going to go right here, right here-ish, yep, and just pull through right there. So mine is looking pretty good right now. Again, don't feel like you have to follow me specifically. I'm just kind of documenting how I'm doing it. But again, it really does not matter how you sew it on. Just know that it should be aligned with your magic ring, and it should look similar to this. There's really no way to sew it on. There's no specific technique. I've never really used a specific technique. I've just used going through the stitch and then going into the body however I can and just kind of stitching it on. So just making sure my eyes are looking forward. And just keep going on to the stitches. You don't need to go through every single one, but I like to, just to make sure it's securely fastened like that. Pull it really tight. Next one. And go into the body. See if I can get in there. Yep. Oh, and it just fell out, so I'll just rethread it. Okay. Perfect. And just knowing that my eye is still looking forward like that, so that's good. And then I'm going to go through again and just kind of, and I'm sorry if I'm going out of frame right now. I'm having trouble focusing there, right there. And then I'm just going to go through this last one in the back and just see if I can find somewhere. So just making sure that my eye stays like that. So that's my first one right there. And then there's obviously a little tail sticking in the back. So just stick it into anywhere and then pull or into the back, pull up, pull through into the body. And then with this, I'm just going to cut as close as I can to the body as possible. And this is just going to kind of stay hidden right there. So there's my first eye. And you can see how it doesn't look exactly like the example, because obviously your eyes are going to differ. Nothing is going to be sewn on perfect, and that's totally fine. It's your frog. You can add as much personality to it as you want. Okay. Second eye now. It's going to go like right there. Okay, let's get that fastened on to our sewing needle. All right. Let's go through the back again. Make sure that your eyes are centered. A little bit away from the magic ring right there. Right there, I'd say. And then I'm going to go through the back. Hook on to the stitch and then go up right there. All right, and then I'm going to go right here, get the stitch, and go under right here. It might be a little bit difficult. There it is. And then I'm going to keep going this side. You can just kind of sew along with me or watch and kind of get a good feel for it. Whatever you think is best. Just kind of get under here. All right. And then now I'm going through the front. So let's get that here and then get through right there. All right. Mine is looking pretty even so far. So, of course, you can always take out your stitches and adjust as needed. Okay, I'm just get under the stitch right here. Go right there. And then I'm just going to go right there and go up right here. It's just kind of difficult to get under. I'm just trying to see if there's anything I can do here. All right, so there it is. And then just get it back on here. All right, and then let's go through this one. My tail end's getting pretty short, and that's why it keeps falling off. So I'm just gonna stay collected and keep going. Okay, go through the back right here, and then go up through this stitch right here. Okay, there it is. And then I just have one more to go before I can finish this. Again, sewing, it's very subjective. I would honestly say do whatever is the easiest for you. I know there's a lot of tutorials out there that teach you specifically how to sew, but honestly, I think just go through the stitches, go through your body, and then just pull tight, and I think that's honestly it. There's not really any specific way to do it. But there is our Fred the Frog, and now our other Fred the Frog has a little friend, and they can be together. So we have his mouth, we have his eyes. And you can also see how each frog differs. Like this one, mouth is a little bit lower, the eyes are a little bit different. It just really depends. So the example, I'll give it to you to refer back to, but obviously at the end, it is your creation and you should be proud of it, whatever it looks like. It does not have to look exactly like mine or like the picture on your kit. But that is the end of our crochet tutorial. I hope you had as much fun as I did making it with you. And again, if you're not done yet, please just take your time, rewind, keep going. Obviously, crocheting pace differs for everyone. So if I went too fast, I apologize. You can put me in a lower speed, or you can, if I went too slow, you can even skip ahead. But this is how my final Fred the Frog turned out. I really hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and I hope it was thorough enough for you to understand. If you have any more questions, you can feel free to reach out to me on my YouTube channel where my communications will be linked. And if you have any specific questions on any specific stitch or part of this tutorial, I will also be answering those questions as well. So please do not hesitate to reach out. And I will also be posting the individual tutorials for the single crochet, the increase, and the decrease all on my Care Crochet YouTube channel. So you can also feel free to check those out. But in all, I hope you had an amazing experience crocheting for the first time, for the second time, even if you're a seasoned crocheter. I hope you had fun crocheting with me. And I do hope you share this creation with me and with your family or your loved ones or your friends, whoever it may be. And I hope you just have a great time continuing your crocheting journey, or if you don't want to after this, that's totally fine too. But with that, I will be ending the video, and thank you so much for watching Cara Crochet's very first tutorial for Fred the Frog.